So this week is not only Shabbat Shirah, as we said, but it's also the week before Tu B'Shvat, the Shabbat before Tu B'Shvat. And, of course, Tu B'Shvat is a holiday celebrating the trees. That's right. Holiday celebrating the trees. I believe that was a Barbara K. Littman Early Learning Center student, in case anybody was wondering. It's a holiday celebrating the trees. And, of course, we could really ask ourselves why we would have a holiday celebrating the trees. What do trees really have to do with anything, that's really important? But actually, all over the Torah, all over the Bible, got some stuff. All over the Torah, all over the Bible, it says that trees are like people. That actually trees represent people. And that when we look at trees and we really study them, and we really think about them, we can actually learn a lot about ourselves. So the first thing that we might want to ask ourselves then, if we really want to get to the bottom of it, is what do trees do? What do they need? What are the things that trees need to grow? I heard water. They need water. We'll talk about that. What else do they need? They need sunlight. Yeah, that's great. What else do they need? They need really 4 things. What's that? Air. They hear air? Like that. Air. They need air. And one more. I think you're too old for this game. They need soil. That's right. So let's start with soil. I brought some. Okay. Here's some soil. And they need soil. And if we think about how that could sort of tell us something about ourselves, what happens when the soil? What is so special about the soil for trees? Trees put their what in the soil? Well, they get nutrients from it. That's right. And through what? Through their roots. Their roots go into the soil, and the soil delivers nutrients to them. They root themselves in something really important. How do we have soil? What do we root ourselves in? We might say that we root ourselves in our heritage. We might say that we root ourselves in our traditions. We might say that we root ourselves in our rituals, like this one, or like the 20 others that we performed throughout this service. Those things give us the balance that we need, and when we root ourselves in them, we're able to grow really strong and really tall, just like a tree. So I think we also said that trees need, I think it was the first thing that I heard, trees need water, right? I didn't put any water in here. Trees need water, right? Why do they need water? Why do they need water? I forget. You have a scientific answer? What's the scientific answer? That's right, the tree needs water in every part of it. So it soaks up the water from the rain and sometimes from the soil too, right? And it helps it grow. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what happens when things don't get enough water? What happens to them? They start to what? They start to wither, right? If you have a plant in your house, the plants in my house all start to wither pretty quickly because we forget about them. But if we don't get that extra little splash of water, start to wither. And Judaism says that people are the same way, that our learning, our Torah, is like water for us. It nourishes us, quenches our thirst, and when we don't get enough of that, we start to wither too. Things start to look the same. We stop seeing the wonder in things. We stop asking all those questions. We just go through the motions, and we start to wither. And so just like a tree, the water in our lives, the Torah in our lives is so important. I also heard something way in the back. I heard that we need what? Air. That trees need air. And people need air too. And did you know that the word for air in Hebrew is related to the word for soul in Hebrew, that actually breathing is related to the word for soul. And so we might say that just the same way that trees need air, they need fresh air and they feel the wind, we actually need soul and spirit in our lives. here you go, you can pass that, smell it around. We actually need things that wake us up. We need a relationship with God. We need something spiritual in our lives that feels like it touches us in a different way than just all the regular stuff. And just like a tree, that air, that breath is essential for us. And finally, there was one other thing. What was it? We need sun. That's right. That trees need sun. The sunlight warms them and helps them grow. And we could say that we need the same thing. When we light these candles, and I brought one in so we can remember what this looks like. What does this feel like when you get near it? It feels warm, right? It feels hot. It's bright and it's warm. And just like trees who need a little bit of that warmth and sunlight, does that come from the earth, all that warmth and sunlight? Where does it come from? It comes from the sun, right? It comes from something outside of the tree. Sometimes we as human beings need that kind of warmth too. We need the warmth that we can't get from ourselves. We get from our community, we get from our relationships, from our family, from our friends, from our temple, from our environment. Sometimes we need an external source of warmth in our lives, just like trees. And when we get all those things, the Torah tells us, we thrive and grow, just like a tall tree. So on Tu B'Shvat, which is what we're celebrating next week, there's all sorts of fun stuff going on, I know, in the preschool and around town for Tu B'Shvat. It's a time to celebrate trees and how tall they grow and how strong they can be in the right conditions and how much that makes the whole world better when trees are like that. But I think it's also a time for us to think about how we can grow tall, how we can grow strong, how we can have deep roots and we can have big branches and we can have all sorts of fruit that we give off to the world under the right conditions. So when trees and people grow and live a long time, they have the chance to give what? What's that? Yeah, seed. Only when trees are healthy and strong, and only when people are healthy and strong, can they help other things grow. Can those seeds be spread around and giving hope and life to the world? We have to treat ourselves, if we think about this whole thing as a metaphor for us, we have to treat ourselves the same way that we might treat a growing tree or a plant in our garden, in our yard. We have to nourish ourselves. We have to surround ourselves with community. We have to have a relationship with God and with our tradition. We have to have deep roots. And if we do that, our seeds will grow into all sorts of beautiful things that we can smell and see and feel and that make everybody else's life a lot sweeter. So I hope on this Tu B'Shvat that we each nourish ourselves and we each nourish each other, so we can offer many seeds of hope and fruits of our lives to the rest of the community. So happy Tu B'Shvat and Shabbat Shalom.